All right, shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. I want to start by giving all the praises, honor, and glory to whom it rightfully belongs, which is Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Hakodash. And what I said was all the praises, honor, and glory belongs to Yahweh, who is the Heavenly Father, in the name of His Son, Yahweh Shai, who is the Messiah, in the name of the Holy Spirit, which in the Hebrew is Hakodash. That belongs to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, everywhere. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. And this lesson is going into where, um, basically is the Christianity version of a rapture going to happen, you know, because these Christians, they believe that there's going to be some type of rapture before all hell breaks loose. And that's not in the Bible. So here, let's just start out with this. This is on my spirit to do this lesson. It says, in Christian, on the AI overview, I typed in rapture. It says, in Christian eschatology, I believe that means belief. It's like if I'm wrong, or theology. But it says the rapture refers to the belief that at the second coming of JC, or who they call JC, it says all believers, both living and dead, will be caught up in the clouds to meet him in the air. This event is often described as a secret rapture, meaning it's believed to occur before a period of tribulation on earth. So these Christians, they believe that before Jacob's trouble happens, that believers in the Messiah are going to get caught up in the air before the period of tribulation happens on earth. And the thing is, I mean, look, well, we could see all hell about to break loose. So what's going on? What's going on? All right. Now, under elaboration, it says the rapture is a key aspect of dispensational pre-millennialism. This is a theological perspective that interprets biblical prophecies as future events. Timing, since the rapture is typically understood as a separate event from the second coming, which involves the anointed. I don't even like saying this word, but the anointed return to earth to establish His kingdom. Read it again. Timing. The rapture is typically normally understood as a separate event from the second coming, which involves the Messiah's return to establish His kingdom. All right. So that's crazy because here it says the rapture is typically understood as a separate event from the second coming, right? In this first line, okay? But up here, it says the rapture refers to the belief at the second coming of the Messiah. All believers, both living and dead, will be caught up in the clouds to meet Him in the air. So which one is it? You see? So they're already contradicting themselves. The biblical basis, the term rapture itself doesn't appear in the New Testament, but verses in First Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 16 through 17 are often cited as supporting this belief. The thing is, Apostle Paul, when he was writing in First Thessalonians 4, he's not wrong, but he wasn't talking about no rapture like the Christian church talks about, man. It says, role of believers. In this view, believers who are alive at the time of the rapture will be transformed and taken up to heaven, while those who have died will be resurrected and join Him. Effect on earth. Some believe that the rapture will be followed by a period of tribulation on earth, during which the Antichrist will appear. Controversy. So, read it again. Effect on earth. Some believe that the rapture will be followed by a period of tribulation on earth, during which the Antichrist will appear. The thing is, right, so they believe that the rapture will happen before all hell would break loose, then all hell would break loose, and then some Antichrist would appear. There's controversy. The concept of the rapture is not universally accepted within Christianity, and there are various interpretations and perspectives on the timing and nature of this event. Okay. And I believe you see that in movies like, I remember seeing this as a little kid, like Left Behind with this dude, okay, Kirk Cameron. This movie Left Behind. Let's see, Left Behind. It says Left Behind tells an apocalyptic story about the ending of Earth, set in a contemporary era, over a period of 7 years. Because Christians, they believe some, 7-year tribulation period and all that. Because the true believers in the Messiah have been raptured, taken instantly to heaven, leaving non-believers behind on earth, now a shattered and chaotic world. All right. So really, they believe if someone believes in the rapture, all right, they pretty much believe that is actually let me type this in. What happens after the rapture? Because after the rapture, believers are gathered with the Messiah in heaven and undergo significant events like the judgment seat of the Messiah, of the anointed, and the marriage supper of the Lamb. Those who are left behind, those who were left behind, including new believers, may continue living in mortal bodies and experience the tribulation period before the Messiah's return. Ultimately, all of humanity will face the great white throne judgment, followed by the establishment of the eternal state in the new heaven and new earth. So basically, if you believe in the rapture, you believe that the Lord is going to come to earth 3 times. And that's not in the Bible because he came first already. All right. He was teaching, you know, and doing his ministry. Then they believe that he's going to come back in the rapture. And then they believe after this period of 7 years of tribulation on earth, then they believe that he's going to come back again. And that's not in the Bible. All right. That's where you get this stupid movie Left Behind. Okay. Because they don't understand what they're talking about. This came out 2000. You know, this dude, Kirk Cameron. I remember seeing this movie, man. But the scriptures don't talk about the Lord coming 3 times, man. Okay. When the Lord comes back, again, that's it. Okay. And guess what? The whole world is going to have to go through um, all hell breaking loose. So, first, let me get the first scripture. We're going to show you that the Lord, he's going to come back only twice, man. I mean, he only came once, but he's only coming back one more time. He's not going to come back 3 times. Let's start with this. He said this one himself. Okay. Matthew chapter 24, starting at verse 29. See, and it's titled The Glorious Return, right? And so it says, immediately after, Matthew chapter 24, starting at verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. What does it mean by immediately after the tribulation of those days? Because you're going to have a time period, okay, known as Jacob's trouble. This is Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 7. It says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. All right. So you're going to have a time period known as Jacob's trouble, right? Which is all hell breaking loose. 2 Ezra 15, 2 Ezra 16, Revelation 6 and 8 with the pale horse. Okay. Just all out hell on the earth. Okay. That's the time period. So after that time period, right? Which Yahweh Shah is basically going to come back in the midst of it, you know. But so he said immediately after the tribulation of the days, now we're at verse 30, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. We know those clouds are talking about the chariots, right? So-called UFOs. Verse 31, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So this is going to happen since after the tribulation of the days. So what are they talking about a rapture? All right. Now, let me look at this word rapture. Rapture. Okay. Now it says raptures, circa 1600, act of carrying off as prayer plunder from rapt in year, or else meaning French rapture from medieval Latin rapture, Caesar, seizure, okay, great kidnapping, all right. This is a carrying off, abduction, snatching away. So basically it goes into a snatching away, okay. And I mean, a snatching away is going to happen, but not the way that Christianity teaches it. Okay. Now, dealing with that one, because we have to go, this is why the scriptures say this, man. Let me get this. Isaiah chapter 28 and verse 10. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. Okay. Let me wait. All right, so let me get this now. Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. And it says, see the time of the end. And at that time, Jacob's trouble, shall Michael stand up, Michael the archangel, the great prince was standing for the children of our people. And this time he's going to stand up to protect the elect throughout Jacob's trouble. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation even at that same time. So this time period is going to be unlike, it's going to be worse than any previous bad time on earth. It says, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. See, and at that time, and at that time, Jacob's trouble, thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. So during Jacob's trouble, okay, those during Jacob's trouble, Yahweh Shai is going to return and deliver the elect of Israel. Okay, not even the whole nation. So see, so what is it talking about? A pre-tribulation rapture, you know? So during that time, thy people shall be delivered. So, and somebody might try to say, well, you know, this is talking about after the rapture, you know, during the tribulation, at the end of the 7-year tribulation period. What the hell? You know, it's telling you at that time, okay? Because the only way they're gonna get delivered is when the Messiah returns. Okay. Let me just see, where did they get the 7-year tribulation period from, man? All right. Okay, here it says the 7-year tribulation in the Bible, often called the Great Tribulation, is a period of intense suffering and judgment that is predicted to occur before the anointed's return. This concept is primarily based on interpretations of the book of Daniel and Revelation. Specifically, it is linked to the 70 weeks prophecy in Daniel chapter 9, where 1 week or 7 years is believed to represent the final period before the end times. So here it says, here's a more detailed breakdown. So this is where they get the um the term of 7-year tribulation period. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Source in Daniel. The prophecy in Daniel chapter 9, verses 24 to 27 speaks of 70 weeks or of 490 years from the time of a decree to rebuild Jerusalem until the Messiah's arrival and then his death. All right, bear with me just 1 second, because this is not going into no 7-year tribulation period, man. All right. Could you imagine if Esau had that much amount of time, all right, to wreak havoc during Jacob's trouble? Could you imagine? All right. It says some interpret this as meaning that a final week of 7 years will occur after the 69th week, marking a period of intense tribulation. It says the interpreted it. So let's get that now. All right. I'm trying to make this quick because I can't. Let's get to Daniel chapter 9, starting in verse 24. This is where they get the 7 weeks from. 70 weeks in the Messiah, right? So they're saying that in this it speaks of 70 weeks, which represents 490 years, okay, which is accurate, all right, from the time of a decree to rebuild Jerusalem until the Messiah's arrival and then his death. Some interpret this as meaning that a final week of 7 years will occur after the 69th week, marking a period of intense tribulation. Interpreted as a period of trouble, the tribulation is understood as a time of intense suffering, persecution, and the Most High judgment on the world. It's often described as worse than anything the world has ever experienced, which is talking about Jacob's trouble, but it's not in the sense this is talking about, that these Christians are talking about. This Antichrist's role. It says, in this view, a powerful figure known as the Antichrist or beast is believed to emerge during this period, leading to a covenant with Israel that is later broken, leading to the persecution of the Most High's people. All right. It says not this idea isn't universally accepted. All right. So, and it says here, historical fulfillment. Some scholars suggest that the events leading up to the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD may have fulfilled some aspects of the tribulation prophecy. Okay. 7-year tribulation is when Satan will make one final attempt to steal the Most High's throne before he is forever overthrown. This time is marked by great troubles. In other words, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but there's a better coming. Yeah, this is not the way they see it is not true. All right. But before I get into this, I want to really just establish that Yahweh Shai is coming back in the midst of Jacob's trouble. There is not going to be no rapture before all hell breaks loose. Okay, that's not going to happen. All right. But so I'm gonna come back to this, Lord willing. Let me just get this though, because scriptures talk about, actually real quick, is the book of Revelation, chapter 8, right? Going down to the 13th verse, it says, "And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound." Now, you watch the videos, when you hear woe, all right, when it's talking about whoa, whoa, whoa right here, it's talking about the three world wars that's going to be on the planet Earth, okay? Because woe basically, it says a primary exclamation of grief, okay? Because woe basically means death and destruction, right? And in Revelation 8, it describes, World War III towards the end of it with the nuclear missiles. Revelation 9 describes World War One, right? A verse in Revelation 9 describes World War II. It said, it doesn't go into it, but it tells about World War II. And then this next verse lets you know that World War III is coming. Revelation 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe comes quickly. So there's going to be a third world war, right? And the world war has been basically the world's major nations is at war with each other, okay, which is coming. We're gearing up for right now, right? And this is Second Ezra chapter 13. And starting at verse 1, it says, "And it came to pass after 7 days that I dreamed a dream by night, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that had moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man, Yahweh Shai, waxed strong with the thousands of heaven, angels. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him," meaning when Yahweh Shai comes back, the earth is going to be in great fear. Verse 4, "And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it filleth with fire." And it's talking about the lasers from the chariot, right? It's not talking about him actually breathing fire out of his mouth, all right? Talking about the lasers of the chariot zapping people, right? Verse 5, "And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea." And this multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven is talking about these nations around the world. Because in the midst of World War III, they're going to be fighting each other, okay? But when Yahweh Shai comes back, they're going to turn and fight him. But this is going to show you that he's going to come back in the midst of World War III. That's when he's going to make his second return. We're going to get it. I'm going to jump down a little bit. And it says this is due to the man that came out of the sea. And we know Yahweh Shai isn't coming out from the ocean somewhere, but it's talking about from outer space. Because when you go to Genesis 1, remember it talks about the firmament being created. And then it said the waters above the firmament and the waters underneath the firmament. Okay. And the waters, and that's talking about outer space and our atmosphere. And the firmament is the ozone layer. It separates outer space atmosphere from our atmosphere. But what it describes it as the waters because moisture is in the air. So Yahweh Shai is going to come to earth from outer space. Right. So now let's jump down to all right, starting at verse 29, it says, "Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth." So this is going into when Yahweh Shai returns. Okay, we living in those days in the time period where Yahweh Shai is about to come back and deliver them that are upon earth. So this is talking about when the Messiah comes to deliver the elect, okay, of Israel. The time period when he comes back to deliver. All right. So this is what it's going into. Verse 30, "He shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth." It's because it's going to take them by surprise. And also, people ain't going to be able to, people ain't ready for the way Yahweh Shai is returning, man. And in the fashion that he is. But look, verse 31, And one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another. Because what? World War III is going to be taking place. All right. When Yahweh Shah returns, World War III is going to be happening when Yahweh Shah returns. These nations are going to be fighting each other. See? But then it's going to turn to what? Well, we're going to hear it. Then it says one realm against another, because when he comes back, it's going to be man versus, it's going to be mortal versus immortal. In other words, the world's armies versus Yahweh Shah and the angels. That's where it's going to turn to. Verse 32, and the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen which I showed thee before. And then shall my son, Yahweh Shah, be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. Listen, and when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another, and an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together as thou sawest them willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. See, so these nations are going to leave off from fighting one another, and they're going to turn and try to fight Yahweh Shai when he returns. See, because they all going to see him when he comes back, and they're going to try to fight him. It's going to be like an out of this world force. Revelation chapter 1 and verse 7. Behold, he cometh with clouds. This is how he's going to make his return, as he said. He never said he's coming back 3 times. He never said that. All right. It says, behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him. And all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him, even so among. So when Yahweh shall return, he's coming with the chariots. Everybody's going to see him, even those Roman soldiers that pierced him because of reincarnation. They back in this time, right? It says, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him, even so among, because he's coming to conquer. Okay. So Yahweh Shah is coming back in the midst of World War III, man. All right. This is what it's talking about. That the day of the Lord. All right. The day of the Lord is when Yahweh Shah returns. Okay. The scriptures say the righteous should be scared safely, because on that day of the Lord, you're gonna have missiles shot off and Yahweh Shah return. You see? And that's when this happens. Isaiah 26 and verse 20. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself as it were for a little moment until the indignation be overpast. You see? And the indignation is talking about a nuclear destruction. So because when Yahweh Shah returns, as he said in Matthew 24, that he's going to beam up that the angels are going to gather the elect into the chariot. Okay, that cloud once again. Now let's deal with this, right? Because they said this is where the rapture doctrine comes from in Christianity, right? 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, starting at verse 13. Keep in mind, it says those who died in Yahweh Shah. It says, but I would not have you ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, that ye sorrow not, even as others which have no hope, because you have some of the elect that have been back into the spirit world, right? It says, verse 14, for if we believe that Yahweh Shai died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Yahweh Shai will Yahweh bring with him. Verse 15, for this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. So you're going to have some of the elect that's going to be alive by the time Yahweh Shai returns. You see? It says, shall not prevent them which are asleep. And that word prevent, when you look it up in blue letter, means to come before. All right. So, and then it explains it in the next couple of verses. Thano.
Strong's G 5348. Fathano.
Thano, when it says to come before, proceed, anticipate. All right. Because when Yahweh Shah returns, the elect is not, the elect is, the elect is, the elect that died in Yahweh Shah, that died in the faith, they're going to be on the chariot first. Then those of the elect that are alive are going to be beamed up next. They're going to be on the chariot afterwards. Then they're going to see the chariot is what? In the air. So they're going to get beamed up, and that's how they're going to meet the Lord in the air. All right? Not no rapture. They're just going to be hovering, Christians, man. Look, it explains, Apostle Paul explains it, verse 16, for the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of Yahweh, and the dead in Hamashiach shall rise first. See? Verse 17, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with these words. So this is the verse, these are the verses that Christianity tries to use to say that but let me show you that this isn't talking about there's going to be a rapture before the tribulation period. Let me show you that this is talking about this doesn't. Let me show you that this does not prove that Yahweh Shai is coming back 3 times. All right, because then we say here, all right, it says in Christian eschatology, the rapture refers to the belief that at the second coming of the anointed, all believers, both living and dead, will be caught up in the clouds to meet him in the air. Let me just show you something, right? Because remember, this said what? Those who died in the anointed, right? So now you get a precept. 1 Corinthians 15, starting in verse 51. It's the mystery of the resurrection. 1 Corinthians 15, starting at verse 50. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yahweh, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. When? In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. And this is talking about, well, we're going to get it. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. Let me just look up something. What is the last trump or last trumpet? It says in 1 Corinthians 15:52 that at the last trumpet refers to the final trumpet call that will signal the resurrection of the dead and the transformation of believers into glorified bodies. This event is associated with the return of the anointed and the gathering of believers to be with him. Okay? Boom. Now it says here the last trumpet is distinct from the 7 trumpets of Revelation, which herald judgment during the tribulation. But we're going to get into that, man. All right? But it says at the last trump. And what is the last trump? Well, let's go back to Revelation 8. Remember, it talks about in verse 6, it says, and the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Now, this verse here, okay, it ends right here, verse 12, talking about the 4th angel, going to the 4th trumpet. Go to the next chapter. Go to the 5th angel, right? Then it describes World War One. Okay, then it says the 6th angel, which kind of, goes into as the Apostle Har said, we're going to get out of here between this. Well, basically, we're going to get out, we're in between the 6th and 7th trumpet. Now, I just want to get specifically to the 7th trumpet. Revelation 11, the 7th trumpet is talked about. See, now the 7th trumpet. All right. And this is with regarding when Yahweh Shah returns. You read up above it, it talks about the elect getting beamed up. So Revelation 11:15, and the 7th angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his anointed, and he shall reign forever and ever. All right, so Yahweh Shai is going to be back during the 7th trumpet. Man. Okay, so this 1 Corinthians 15:52 is the last trump, right? It's talking about when Yahweh Shai returns. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, that's because when he comes back, he's going to beam up the elect, and their bodies are going to be changed. All right, remember, they said the rapture doctrine, they get it off of 1 Thessalonians 4. And then 1 Thessalonians 4 talked about the dead in Yahweh Shai being, trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. The Apostle Paul also wrote this too. So you see, there is no such thing as rapture before Jacob's trouble. All right. If the Spirit is working with you, you're gonna be able to understand what I'm talking about. All right. I know I'm saying a lot of words, but Yahweh Shah is only coming twice. He came once and he's only coming back one more time. Okay? And then this time he's coming to establish his kingdom when he comes back. All right? You know? And the dead, so when he comes back, all right, which is going to be in the midst of World War III and Jacob's trouble, as we went through them precepts to get. All right. But when he comes back, all right, then the elect is gonna get taken up into the chariot and they're gonna be changed. Okay. Let me get another precept. And for time's sake, I have to just probably make another video. 1 John 3:2, going to the 7-year tribulation, etc. and all that. 1 John chapter 3, verse 2 says, Beloved, now are we the sons of the Most High, and it does not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. Yeah, when he appears, then we're going to be changed. The elect are going to be changed. All right. So, that's pretty kind of going into it a little bit. All right. So I hope, you understand that. Yeah, there ain't going to be no such thing as a rapture um, before, you know, before Jacob's trouble. All right. Because these Christians, they still waiting on it. I asked the Christian, I was like, well, you saw all this stuff about to happen. So where the rapture at? You know, they done made all these movies and stuff talking about how people showing how people going to be upset and sad after it happens because they ain't get taken and all this extra stuff. So yeah, man. All right. So I just wanted to get that. Lord willing's lesson was edifying to the elect. I'm going to start by giving all the praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Kakodash. That belongs to the apostles, the elders, the great millstone, every well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect. Shalom to the elect.